All right, we're back for part 2 of our education series regarding Vote HOA Now and online voting. We're here with Kathy Flight from Vote HOA. So Kathy, thanks for joining us. Feel free to tell everybody a little bit about you and a little bit about Vote HOA Now, and then we'll get into the show, if you will.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for inviting me back. These are always fun, and I think they're a great way to educate our managers and board members. Kathy Flight here. Of course, I work for Vote HOA Now. We exclusively serve this industry and run online votes, elections, amendments, issue votes, anything you can think of that you need your membership to vote on. I have prior experience. I was a manager for 12 years, so I've been to those contentious elections and meetings, and I've not met quorum on several occasions and had to go to reconvene meetings, which is why I'm so passionate about online voting, and I know that it's a tool that can help managers all over the nation.
Absolutely. And quorum is the biggest challenge that we see with our associations. It's a challenge not only just getting people to run for the board, but then you have people running, but then you don't get quorum for that election. So all that work was for naught. So let's talk about the benefits here that you've seen over time, and then certainly that we've seen from the manager and the board member perspective regarding online voting. So where do you see it going when it comes to online voting, certainly in the state of Florida, but nationwide?
Well, Florida, is certainly picking up steam. A lot more associations are looking at online voting. We see it as we say every single day that the future is online. And boards, even more now than ever, are looking at ways to take all of their important business online. So just briefly, I like to go over these every single time because it's so important to know that you are going to save time and money. You're going to get rid of those paper mailings. You're not going to have those packets mailed out to everyone. You may still have a few that request a paper ballot or a paper packet, and you'll have to accommodate those requests. You are going to increase your participation. More owners are going to vote online than you could even imagine. Just do it today. You don't need all the emails or anything to get started. Just start. Select the company that works for you. We're going to talk a little bit more about this today, how to figure out what process you want to follow. All of the online voting systems, of course, are all eco-friendly, but of course, along with them, we do email all of our invitations and reminders. Ask for real-time results. Every time an owner submits their ballot, they should, their ballot should be tallied. And most importantly, we talk about this all the time, we don't want managers out 2 or 3 times at the same meeting. We want to achieve that important quorum before we get to the meeting, so we know we can actually hold the meeting and take care of that business and move on to the next evening.
Now, what is it, before we get into these actual questions here that are on the screen, now, online voting is really, you mentioned earlier that some people will be still doing it by paper ballot and others will be immediately jumping online. Those that are technically comfortable or technology comfortable will see it, they'll embrace it, and they'll do it. But it's not that simple. There's always going to be some of those people, if you will, who are uncomfortable with technology and might not necessarily trust the system. So at the initial movement, if a board wants to do this, we're going to get into the legalities of it, how to do it here in a second, but if the board wants to move into the online voting world, there's still going to be, say, a year or 2 or maybe several elections where it's kind of a hybrid. Do you see that where people are still mailing in ballots, but also more of them are coming in online to make their votes? Are you seeing that kind of in the industry?
We are. Most of our clients are actually most states are required to send that paper notice, which gives the online voting options. And at that time, you would, of course, tell your membership, we've partnered with this company to provide you electronic voting. We hope that you'll do that. We want to make it our primary method. But if you don't, or if you're not comfortable with that, or you prefer a paper ballot or another voting method, which could be coming to the meeting, those options are all still available. And over time, the amount of people voting online will increase. But yes.
Right, and obviously, I totally agree with you. Over time, the numbers of online voting will absolutely increase. There's no doubt about it as more people get more comfortable with it, as it becomes more mainstream. Right now it's not, or it's in that infant stages, so there's a lot of unknowns. So from a pro and con perspective, um, give me the highlights, if you will. Why would a board do it?
Yeah, well, to meet quorum and to offer their owners, a new option to vote. There's so many owners out there who really just don't do anything for their community. They can't attend the meeting. They don't attend the meetings. They have games. They have soccer games and other obligations with their family. It just keeps them away from supporting their association. So, on the pro side, just offer your owners a new option to participate. Also, the fewer mailings and reminders to vote. An electronic voting system can send reminders to people every day or every other day, and that is certainly more than you can send by paper. The cons are, of course, what we discussed, that some, still will require a paper ballot. Hopefully that will become fewer and fewer. We have, a lot of associations that started out issuing, let's say 4,000 homes, started out issuing 250 ballots, and last year reported they issued 12. So those are some of the results that you can look forward to too. Some won't be able to handle the electronic vote. They'll get confused. They'll still come to the meeting. And, those are just the cons of it, is just the education of how to do it and just getting away from the old-fashioned methods.
Right, and I would agree. The educational piece over time will take less and less effort because more and more people will slowly migrate towards the online world, but there'll always be that group that they don't like it, they don't trust it, they don't understand how the internet works, and that's 100% okay. But that's the big picture. Let's talk about the minutia of this. When we're talking about how to actually go about doing this online voting, this is not, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not something that the board of directors can just say, okay, this year we're voting online and get going. Can they?
Well, yes and no. They have to know the hierarchy of their documents. They can look to their state statute for the electronic voting language. Florida, in particular, does have a state statute that does allow electronic voting. It does have some steps that you have to meet and some authentication requirements and whatnot. So unless your documents say no, you cannot use online voting or any electronic means, facsimile, there may be some older language in there. Most associations in Florida can rely on the state statute to give them the authority. If they don't, they may have to do a document amendment, of course, which is a little more expensive and probably incorporated with several other things that they need to update if they're in that position. But oftentimes it can just be a simple resolution, an electronic voting resolution that could help clarify what's in the documents along with the state statute. So most boards have a process for bringing a new program online, and it could be just as simple as just an electronic voting resolution.
So if I'm hearing you right, and I like to think that I am, but you're saying that if the state statute here in the state of Florida does have language for electronic voting, and the association has document language in their governing document that does allow for electronic voting in some capacity, and some governing documents will say it differently. But if they say those two things, then the board theoretically could make a resolution at a board meeting to agree to accept, if I'm understanding you correctly, accept electronic voting, and then it's just a matter of picking the vendor, getting it started, and then educating the unit owners. Am I understanding that properly?
Yes, you are. Yes. So you would go to your state statutes first and then follow any instructions that you have in your documents, which typically ends up in a resolution.
Right.
It's good to have.
Right. It's typically.
We have something for clarification. Then we get
Perfect.
down.
So,
yeah.
Sorry, go right ahead.
I was going to say, then we get down to how do we select the right vendor? There
yeah,
are.
how do you, Kathy, how do we select the right vendor?
You asked me that, Paul. Well, I think you have to what kind of participation level you want your manager, your board, and your committee to have. Do you want them, building the ballot and running the election and doing everything that they've done before and trying to learn those processes over and over based on who is the manager, who's the committee member and, you know, who's on the board. You know, that could be a training situation each and every year. Or do you want a full service setup and management of any voter survey that you do? So, you know, interview your vendors and ask them, you know, what kind of services they provide. Some, you know, of course, like to don't have as big of budgets, so they're looking at doing a self-service. They'll find that they run into trouble, of course, you know, getting everything loaded correctly and building their own ballot. Some like to turn it over to a professional company who provides that layer of separation. You know, they just have to determine what participation level they want those board members, committee members, and managers to be at. But once you've selected your online voting company, then you just have a single point of contact that works with that vendor to set up your vote and ballot. So it really is kind of up to you. We always recommend that layer of privacy, of course, is good between the manager, board members, and committees. So that's why we provide the full service setup and management.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head in the level of privacy. We've all heard those stories about associations that have not only challenging boards, but challenging groups of unit owners, and then certainly very contentious elections. So being able to do these elections online in secret, where everything is, for lack of a better phrase, validated by the unit owner, not necessarily a board member looking and holding on to proxy votes and stuff like that. It is really a way, this online voting, it really is a way to kind of get rid of those questions or those concerns, if you will, those assumptions that unit owners make about the most recent election if they've had history with their associations. The online voting mechanism is a way to kind of throw it out on the open and say, this is how the election went. Is that fair?
Yes, it is. Well, and the fact that every person who votes online receives a receipt of exactly how they voted, and at any time they can ask the manager or someone to confirm that their vote was recorded correctly. And that cuts down on a lot of the suspicious behavior and those types of things. You just a few people saying my vote was tallied correctly and I don't have any issues any longer.
I love it. Well, Kathy, really do appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today. I mean, obviously online voting is coming for more and more associations. It's just a matter of the who, the what, and the when. We truly appreciate the ability to work with you as a valued partner here with Associa and certainly Associa Gulf Coast. But if a unit owner or even a board member or quite frankly a manager wants to reach out to you directly, and let's just say they're not looking at the slide right now, what's the best way and the most convenient way for someone to reach out to you directly? And what's the easiest way for you to reach back?
Yes, go to our website at votehoanow.com and click on the I Want Online Voting button and fill out the form and ask your question. Or if you are looking at the slide, I've provided my email, kathy.slight@votehoanow.com, and my local telephone number that goes right to my desk. If you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you. And just in closing on my end, start today. You don't need all the emails. You don't need all of the information. You just need to get started so that you can safely and quickly transition your community onto online voting.
I love it. And I hope more and more associations move towards this. It'll make the manager's life easier. It'll make the board's life easier. It'll make everyone's life easier, quite frankly, because there is that accountability. There is that transparency and that security piece that you're talking about as well. All that kind of wrapped into one to make it easier for everybody to have a quality election where there aren't any quote unquote shenanigans or the assumption of shenanigans. So again, Kathy, really do appreciate the time to chat with you. Much continued success, not only personally, but also with Vote HOA Now, and best of luck in the future.
Thanks so much, Paul, for the opportunity. Looking forward to providing additional information at any time.
Thank you.